What's going on? Welcome back to DaleyGrind. I'm Stephen Daly, your host. Have you ever sat in one of those rooms? Gray walls, metal table, bad coffee smell, one-way mirror staring back at you like a dead fisheye? They call it an interview room. That's cute. It's actually an interrogation chamber with better lighting. And here's what's up. The person across from you, that friendly detective or cop with the tired smile, they can lie to you, legally, like full-on make stuff up and call it justice levels of lying. It all started with one man named Martin Frazier in a Supreme Court case called Frazier v. Cupp, 1969. A case that basically said, as long as the cops lie politely, it's fine. That's the American compromise. You can't waterboard a confession out of someone anymore, but you can gaslight the shit out of them with a smile. Let's get into it.
This is DaleyGrind. I don't do safe topics, trigger warnings, or corporate-friendly bullshit. No subject is off limits. Political, true crime, history, or whatever else gets the gears grinding in your head. I grind into reality like it owes me rent.
My intro says that I don't do trigger warnings, and I don't, but I am going to do a disclaimer on this because I don't want some asshole to try to sue me. I'm not an attorney. Don't consider this episode as legal advice. A lot of this stuff I'm speaking from first-hand experience. I'm going to say nothing good comes from answering questions from the police. They're looking for information that they don't have, and they have to ask you questions to get it. Fuck them. Let them prove what they have to prove. Mr. Frazier's story doesn't start with flashing lights. It starts with a dull hum of a ceiling bulb and the faint smell of old cigarette smoke clinging to the cinder block walls. He's 20, barely out of the Marine Corps, still carrying that posture they drill into you. Back straight, yes sir reflexes intact. But inside, he's just a kid who hasn't figured out civilian life yet. The detectives bring him in after midnight. No lawyer, no family, just two guys in polyester suits who smell like bad coffee and authority.
It was real greaseball shit.
They slide a chair across the floor so it screeches, an old trick. Sets the nerves, buzzing before a single word is spoken. Detective 1 said, "Martin, we just need to clear a few things up. You're not under arrest, we just want your side of it." Frazier said, "What do you mean, it?" The other detective said, "Your cousin already told us everything, said you were there." That's lie number 1, and the most effective in this one book. You can see it land, the tiny flinch in Frazier's jaw, a little calculation behind his eyes, because if your own blood sold you out, what's left to protect? That's how the psychology works: isolation, betrayal, fatigue. They talk fast so you can't get your balance. They offer coffee, cigarettes, anything that helps you with sitting in that chair comfortably. They make the room feel like the only safe place left. Frazier mumbles that maybe he should call a lawyer. The older detective gives a patient smile. The kind your kindergarten teacher probably used right before your nap time. "Sure thing, Marine. We can call one later. Let's get the truth down first so we can help you." That single line is textbook. They frame the confession as help, not punishment, not surrender. Help, and once he believes that, they own him. He starts talking, first in fragments, then in sentences. Every pause filled with encouragement. "That's good, Marty. You're doing the right thing. We already know most of it." It's an interrogation by slow erosion. You don't need to shout. They just let the silence stretch until his own words start filling it. When the statement's done, they write "voluntary" at the top and slide it across the table for his signature. He signs because in his mind, the fight ended when they said his cousin confessed. And while he's still sitting in the chair, dazed and hollow, the detectives are already rummaging through the next constitutional gray area, the duffel bag. It's the same one he and his cousin shared during the road trip, now sitting at Grandma's house. Instead of a warrant, they get Grandma's polite consent. The court will later call that reasonable. They find clothes with a little blood on them, nothing definitive, but enough to look convincing in a courtroom slideshow. They'll hold it up to the jury and say, see, he even confessed. That's how a 20-year-old Marine trained to survive combat gets conquered, by conversation. No bruises, no marks, just a signature lie with a Supreme Court seal approval. And I want to jump back. This was in Oregon in 1965, so you're looking at right in the middle of the Vietnam War. Frazier's lawyer goes nuclear. They lied to him, Your Honors. They tricked him into confessing. In the Supreme Court, those black robe fuckers of loopholes nod sagely and say, well, yeah, they lied, but did they really lie badly? Justice Thurgood Marshall writes the opinion that changes police work forever. Quote, a false statement by police is relevant, but insufficient by itself to make confession involuntary. Translation, if they lie to you softly enough, it's fine. The court decided it wasn't cohesion, but nobody punched him. Nobody kept him awake for 3 days. Nobody shouted. They just told him a bedtime story until he folded like a cheap lawn chair. And just like that, deception became a tool of the trade. Every police academy in the country took notes. You can't slap a suspect, but you can gaslight them. You can't choke them, but you can manipulate them into confessing. You can't torture their bodies, so you can torture their certainty instead. And I first learned about this case when I was working corrections at a county jail. I took a training course on the Reed technique of interview and interrogation. So that's where I got this case from. And they did talk a little bit about this and the lies and how it's okay to lie. And they also talked about developing a theme. So, for example, if you're interrogating a suspect on maybe stealing from his employer, you could say something like, hey, listen, man, I know times are hard. You probably don't make much at that dead-end job, and you had to do what you had to do to make ends meet for your family and stuff. And that's it, man. They play on your emotions, and they fucking got you. That's how Frazier v. Cupp turned the Bill of Rights into a choose-your-own-adventure. Except in this one, every ending ends with congratulations, you played yourself. The next time you find yourself being questioned by police, even if it's just a traffic stop for speeding, and they say, do you know how fast you were going? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to put your hand over your mouth, exhale, and smell your breath. If it smells like shit, you're about to have diarrhea of the mouth, and just remember, shut up. I also want to add in the Fifth Amendment is not self-invoking. If you just sit there and don't answer and stay quiet, that's not good. You have to actually tell them, I don't answer questions, I'm invoking the Fifth, I plead the Fifth, something like that. Remember that duffel bag? The one Frazier shared with his cousin? That innocent-looking gym bag became a constitutional chew toy. The cops didn't bother with a warrant. That's work. And some cops are fucking lazy. Instead, they asked the cousin's mom, hey, can we take a peek? She said, sure, honey. And the Supreme Court later said, that counts. And that's how we got third-party consent. Meaning if you share something with someone, a room, a car, a cloud account, a toothbrush cup, they can legally invite the cops inside. Your privacy becomes a team sport. Think about that the next time you have a roommate, or you're out on the town with a buddy in their vehicle, or in your vehicle with them. You think you're safe because it's your backpack? Nope. If your roommate shares the closet, congratulations. You've got a constitutional roommate problem. Frazier lost on that point too, because apparently possession is 9/10 of the law, unless the 10th owns the handcuffs. After 1969, law enforcement training manuals should have just come with a wink. You could almost hear the chalk squeal on every blackboard. Class, you can't hit 'em, but you can certainly trick 'em. And trick they did. From New York to Nevada, interrogations became improv theater with a badge. Officers practiced soft shell, the good cop meets reverse psychology routine. Like, remember the themes I told you about? Or they'd tell one suspect, your buddy already flipped. Then they'd stroll into the next room and say the exact same thing. By lunch, they've got 2 confessions and 0 truth. In the courts, they called that effective policing. Half a century later, the doctrine still stands. Judges quote Frazier v. Cupp like it's fucking scripture. Deception alone doesn't make it involuntary. But keep in mind, if you lie to them, it's a crime. Some states finally started waking up. Illinois said, hey, maybe we shouldn't let the cops lie to kids. It took them 52 years to realize scaring a 15-year-old into a confession might be wrong. Progress. But this is American style. We crawl to the moral finish line and declare victory. Totality of the circumstances. That's just a fancy phrase lawyers use when they don't want to draw the line. It's courtroom jazz. No sheet music, just vibes. The judge looks at the situation and says, well, sure, they lied, but it was friendly lying. There's no checklist. If you were tired, hungry, confused, scared, misled, but didn't technically cry blood, then your confession is still voluntary. You can be sitting there thinking you're helping yourself while they build the gallows with your words, and the law calls that cooperation. You ever notice how voluntary in police language means after 6 hours of panic and dehydration, it's like calling mugging a donation? This rule is the escape hatch that keeps Frazier alive. Anytime a defense lawyer says, they tricked my client, the prosecutor just whispers those 4 holy words, totality of the circumstances, and the judge nods like it's gospel. So yeah, the Constitution's still hanging on. It's just duct taped to the wall with totality written in Sharpie. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. Tonight's episode of Daily Grind is brought to you by Blue Line Fairy Tales, the only bedtime series where the truth takes a nap and justice hits snooze. Featuring favorites like The Boy Who Cried Confession, and Goldilocks and the 3 Plea Deals, now with extra totality glitter. Because nothing says bedtime like a voluntary statement. Here's the only real advice I'll ever give you from this show. Shut up. When you're in that room, silence isn't rude, it's self-defense. The less you say, the less they can twist. You think the truth will save you? Ask any exoneree. The system doesn't run on truth, it runs on paperwork. Every word you speak becomes a nail in your coffin, neatly typed and double-spaced. And the detective who told you, this is just between us, he's rehearsing his testimony. So if you ever hear, we already know what happened, you look him in the eye, smile politely, and think, yeah, then you don't need me. That's how you survive a Frazier-style interrogation. Not by arguing, by refusing to play the game. Let's talk about what happens when that lie becomes policy. Because once the Supreme Court said a little deception never hurt anyone, every interrogation room in America turned into a stage for fiction, and real people paid the fucking bill. Let's go back to 1989. The Central Park 5. 5 teenagers, no lawyers, no parents, just hours of cops playing musical chairs with lies. Your buddy already confessed. We've got your prints. You can go home if you just tell us what happened. According to the Supreme Court, this is all okay to tell people, even if they're lying. They confessed to a crime they didn't commit, spent years in prison. DNA later said, oops. The city cut them a $41 million apology check, which is basically taxpayer hush money. 1997, the Norfolk 4. 4 Navy sailors, each told the others had flipped. Each confessed to save himself. None of them did it. Real killer, some other guy. Totality of the circumstances, Naval Edition. 1993, the West Memphis 3. Small town, satanic panic, and a teenager with an IQ that barely cracked 70. 12 hours of questions, no lawyers. Fed the answers like lines in a play. He confessed. They served 18 years. When DNA cleared them, the state let them out only if they agreed to keep the word guilty on paperwork. Justice with an asterisk. 2005, Brendan Dassey. 16, awkward, soft-spoken. Cops promised he could go home if he told the truth. So he told them what they wanted to hear. Now he's doing life. Moral of the story, in Wisconsin, truth means whatever helps the prosecution. And I remember watching that documentary on Netflix. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember this. So I don't know where I stand on that one. Maybe he was involved, maybe he wasn't. So let me know in the comments down below what you think. 1992, Juan Rivera. 4 days of questioning, fake polygraph, fake evidence. They ignored his ankle monitor, proving he wasn't even there. He confessed anyway. 20 years gone. Illinois paid him $20 million for the mix-up. The justice system's equivalent of store credit. 1985, the Beatrice Six. Police convinced 6 people they had repressed memories. They started believing they were killers, all convicted. DNA later said they weren't even close. They won $28 million, but good luck refunding the nightmares from 28 fucking years in prison because asshole cops wanted to fucking lie to them. 1988, Okoa and Danziger. Detectives promised one life if the other confessed. They both lost. 12 years later, DNA cleared them. One walked out free, the other left brain damaged from a prison beating. That's what relevant but insufficient looks like in life. Every one of those cases has the same smell: isolation, pressure, and lies. In a courtroom shrugging 50 years of precedent because as long as the lie isn't too mean, it's legal. When your justice system decides that honesty is optional, truth becomes a casualty of convenience. That's the punchline, isn't it? Frazier v. Cupp didn't just change law, it changed culture. It told every detective that deceit is a tool, and every suspect that trust is a trap. I'm not anti-cop, I'm anti-bullshit. Because if the system rewards lies more than integrity, don't act surprised when justice starts sounding like marketing copy. So here's your survival tip. If you ever end up in a little gray room with the humming light, remember, they can lie, you can't. In silence, that's the only thing they can't twist. I'm Stephen Daley, and this was Daily Grind, where we sand down the fine print until the truth reveals its splinters. Stay sharp, stay sarcastic, and for fuck's sake, never talk without a lawyer.